Good morning, and welcome to Lecture 33, Science and the Platonic Worldview, also known as the Consilience Lecture. In today's session, we will explore the profound relationship between Plato's philosophy and modern scientific thought, mainly focusing on consilience, the unity of knowledge across disciplines. E.O. Wilson popularized the term consilience, but as we'll discuss, the roots of this idea are deeply embedded in Plato's work. To fully appreciate the connections between Plato's philosophy and modern science, I strongly recommend revisiting Plato's Timaeus, the Republic, Phaedrus, and Symposium to fully appreciate the connections between Plato's philosophy and modern science. These dialogues engage with the nature of reality, knowledge, and the search for ultimate truths, concepts central to philosophical inquiry and scientific exploration. For instance, in Timaeus, Plato presents a cosmological vision that touches on the nature of the universe, hinting at a unity of knowledge that has long fascinated philosophers and scientists alike. His Republic offers the allegory of the cave, where the distinction between appearances and reality invites us to consider how science seeks to uncover hidden truths behind observable phenomena. Plato's theory of forms, found in Phaedrus and Symposium, likewise mirrors the scientific pursuit of discovering universal laws and principles beneath the chaos of sensory experience. These dialogues are more than historical texts. They continue to shape our understanding of knowledge and reality today. I encourage you to engage with these works as we dive into the connections between Plato's thought and the scientific method. Your reading of these primary sources will greatly enhance your ability to see how philosophy and science converge toward a unified vision of knowledge, a vision Plato outlined millennia ago. Now, let's discuss how these timeless ideas still resonate in modern scientific fields, offering insights into the nature of knowledge, reality, and the quest for truth. Lecture 33, Science and the Platonic Worldview, Bonus, the Consilience Lecture. Good morning, everyone. Today we're diving into a fascinating topic, the relationship between science and philosophy through the lens of Plato's worldview. Specifically, we will examine how Plato's ideas have influenced scientific thought and how his philosophy helps us understand the relationship between science and broader philosophical questions. We'll be talking about consilience, a term used to describe the unity of knowledge. The phrase might sound modern, but the roots of consilience lie deep in philosophical history, especially in Plato's work. In this lecture, I will show how Plato's ideas resonate in the scientific world and offer some insights into why his way of thinking still matters in today's scientific landscape. Introduction to Consilience, Bridging Science and Philosophy. Biologist E.O. Wilson popularized the term consilience in his 1998 book, Consilience, the Unity of Knowledge. But the underlying idea stretches back to ancient Greece. Wilson uses the concept to describe knowledge synthesis across different disciplines, arguing that human understanding should eventually converge into a cohesive system. Although Plato didn't have modern science as we know it, he already hinted at this unity of knowledge in his philosophical inquiries. The Timaeus, one of Plato's late dialogues, is particularly relevant here. In this work, Plato explores the nature of the cosmos, matter, and the structure of reality. He proposes a world of forms, which are perfect, unchanging ideas, and the material world, which is a flawed reflection of these forms. Timaeus 28b-29. The world we experience through our senses is transient, always changing, but the underlying order, the forms, remains eternal. This search for underlying order is what makes Plato's thinking so influential to the scientific method, where scientists seek to uncover the principles governing the natural world. In the Republic, Plato also presents his famous allegory of the cave, Republic, 514a, 520a. In this allegory, prisoners in a cave mistake shadows on the wall for reality because they cannot see the objects casting the shadows. When one prisoner escapes the cave and sees the world in its full, sunlit reality, he realizes that what they had taken for reality was merely an illusion. This allegory captures the essence of Plato's worldview. The material world is a shadow of a higher reality. For Plato, true knowledge involves turning away from the sensory world and discovering the unchanging truths that lie behind it. This quest for higher truth is analogous to the scientific pursuit of fundamental principles that explain the world. Plato and the birth of rational inquiry. Plato's emphasis on rational inquiry laid the groundwork for the scientific method, even though the development of modern science was still centuries away. In dialogues like the Meno, we see Plato exploring the nature of knowledge and inquiry itself. The Meno introduces the idea of recollection, where learning is described as the recollection of knowledge the soul already possesses. Meno, 81a-e. While this notion of innate knowledge might seem far removed from science, Plato's deeper point is about the process of inquiry, the idea that we can use reason to uncover truths about the world. This emphasis on rational discovery is echoed in the scientific method, where observation, hypothesis, and reasoned analysis lead to new knowledge. Plato's influence on the development of science can also be seen in the way he framed questions about the natural world. Take, for example, the dialogue Phaedo. In this text, Plato has Socrates discuss the difference between the world of appearances and the world of true forms, suggesting that the senses can deceive us and that true knowledge comes from intellectual insight. Phaedo, 65a, 66a. This division between sensory knowledge and intellectual understanding echoes through the history of science, where empirical data must be interpreted through theoretical frameworks to arrive at reliable knowledge. The Platonic forms and the scientific search for universals. One of Plato's most significant contributions to the history of thought is his theory of forms, which suggests that the objects we perceive in the physical world are mere reflections of perfect, unchanging archetypes. The scientific search for universal laws and principles that govern the physical world is, in a sense, a continuation of this Platonic quest for forms. When scientists seek to uncover the laws of physics, they are searching for the timeless truths that lie behind the changing phenomena we observe. Consider the role of mathematics in science. For Plato, mathematics was the key to unlocking the secrets of the universe, because mathematical truths are timeless and unchanging, much like his forms. In the Republic, Plato argues that mathematical reasoning trains the mind to grasp these higher realities. Republic, 522c, 527c. This emphasis on mathematics as a way to understand the cosmos has had a profound influence on science, particularly in fields like physics, where mathematical models are used to describe the fundamental laws of nature. Isaac Newton, for example, was deeply influenced by the Platonic idea that the universe is governed by underlying laws. His laws of motion and universal gravitation are, in a way, an attempt to uncover the forms that govern the physical world. Similarly, Albert Einstein's theory of relativity seeks to describe the fundamental structure of space and time, reflecting a Platonic belief in the existence of deeper truths behind the surface of things. Plato's legacy in the philosophy of science. While Plato's ideas influenced the development of science, they also shaped the philosophy of science, particularly the debate about the nature of reality and how we can know it. In the dialogue Theaetetus, Plato grapples with the question of knowledge itself, exploring whether knowledge is perception, belief, or something else. Theaetetus, 151-186 says. This dialogue is often seen as a precursor to modern epistemology, the branch of philosophy concerned with the nature and limits of human knowledge. In the Theaetetus, Plato considers and ultimately rejects the idea that knowledge is merely perception, a view that would later find expression in the empiricism of thinkers like John Locke and David Hume. Instead, Plato emphasizes that knowledge must be grounded in something more stable than sensory perception. This argument foreshadows the philosophical debate about the role of observation in science. While empirical data is crucial, scientists must also develop theoretical frameworks to interpret this data, just as Plato's philosopher must rise above perception to grasp the forms. Karl Popper, a 20th century philosopher of science, also engaged with Plato's ideas. In his book, The Open Society and Its Enemies, Popper criticized Plato's political philosophy, but acknowledged his influence on the development of critical rationalism, a philosophy that emphasizes the role of falsifiability in scientific inquiry. Popper's notion that scientific theories must be open to refutation echoes Plato's belief in the importance of questioning assumptions and striving for deeper understanding. Consilience, a Platonic dream in modern science. Returning to the concept of consilience, we can see how Plato's worldview continues to influence contemporary thought. E.O. Wilson's vision of a unified body of knowledge, where the insights of different disciplines converge, is very much in line with Plato's belief in the unity of truth. In dialogues like the Phaedrus and Symposium, Plato suggests that all forms of knowledge ultimately point toward a single overarching truth, the form of the good, Phaedrus 245c 250d, Symposium 210a 211d. This idea that different fields of inquiry are interconnected and that they all contribute to our understanding of a greater whole is at the heart of the consilience argument. In the modern world, we see this Platonic ideal playing out in interdisciplinary research where insights from biology, physics, neuroscience, and even philosophy are combined to tackle complex problems. For example, the study of consciousness, a topic that has intrigued both scientists and philosophers for centuries, requires input from neuroscience, psychology, and philosophy. The search for a unified theory of consciousness mirrors Plato's search for the forms. Scientists and philosophers alike are seeking to uncover the underlying principles that explain the nature of the mind. Plato and modern physics, the search for order in chaos. One area where Plato's influence is particularly evident is in modern physics. Physicists are still grappling with questions that Plato raised over 2,000 years ago, particularly the relationship between order and chaos. In the Timaeus, Plato describes a cosmos that is the product of a divine craftsman who imposes order on chaos, creating a harmonious and intelligible world, Timaeus 29-30b. This image of the universe as an ordered system has inspired generations of scientists to seek out the underlying laws that govern the cosmos. In the 20th century, quantum mechanics and chaos theory challenged this traditional view of an orderly universe, suggesting that at a fundamental level, the universe may be governed by randomness and unpredictability. However, even in these seemingly chaotic systems, scientists continue to search for patterns and underlying structures. The discovery of fractals, for example, reveals that even in chaotic systems, there is an underlying order. This search for order in chaos reflects the Platonic belief that the universe is ultimately intelligible, even if its workings are not immediately apparent to us. The ethical dimension, science, philosophy, and the good. Finally, we must consider the ethical implications of Plato's influence on science. For Plato, knowledge and ethics were deeply intertwined. In the Republic, he argues that the philosopher's ultimate goal is not just to know the truth, but to live in accordance with the form of the good. Republic, 517c, 521c. This connection between knowledge and ethics remains relevant today, especially in the context of scientific research. As scientists uncover new knowledge, they must also grapple with the ethical implications of their discoveries. In fields like biotechnology, artificial intelligence, and environmental science, the question of how to use scientific knowledge for the good of humanity is more pressing than ever. Plato's insistence that knowledge must be guided by ethical considerations provides a valuable framework for addressing these challenges. The philosopher-scientist, like Plato's philosopher-king, must be both a seeker of truth and a guardian of the good. Conclusion: Plato's enduring relevance in the age of science. In conclusion, Plato's ideas continue to shape the way we think about science and its role in our understanding of the world. His vision of a unified body of knowledge, his emphasis on rational inquiry, and his belief in the ethical dimension of knowledge all remain relevant today. The concept of consilience, which seeks to unify knowledge across disciplines, is a modern reflection of Plato's belief in the unity of truth. As we continue to explore the frontiers of science, we can look to Plato for guidance in understanding not just the nature of reality, but also the ethical responsibilities that come with knowledge. Science and philosophy, far from being separate domains, are part of the same quest for understanding, a quest that began in ancient Greece and continues to this day.